So the other day we had multiple presentations. PlayStation State of Play, Nintendo Direct, Summer Game Fest, whatever Xbox had. And they all announced tons of games that don't matter. But one thing they announced that did matter was year 2 for sonicracingcrossworlds. I am really excited for this, and I'm hoping it does well enough to get a year 3, 4, maybe even 5. I know, kind of unlikely, but a guy can hope, can't he? But this also begs the question, if we do get more years, what would be in them? As well as what else they can add to the game to improve it. So in this video, I'll be discussing how I'd make a future year for sonicracingcrossworlds. So starting off, we have 2 franchises confirmed for year 2 so far, Godzilla and an anime I've never watched. So now season 2 only has 4 open slots left. As for how I'd make the next 4 slots, the first one, obvious choice is obvious, but DC Comics. I mean, come on. How hasn't this happened yet? The crossover is successful, Batman's one of the most iconic characters in all fiction, as well as the Batmobile being the most iconic vehicle in all fiction. And since Warner Bros. Doesn't have their own kart racer game, I would think Sega would want to swoop in and try to secure Batman for their game. As for characters, I think DC is one of the few franchises that can actually warrant more than 2 characters. Now I could list 4 characters or 5 characters, but I think I'll just play it safe and just list 3 characters. The first character? I mean, come on. For the second character, I would go with Superman. As for the third character, there are many options to pick from. You can go with the Joker, you can go with Wonder Woman, you can go with Starfire. But for the third character, I'm going with Nightwing. Mostly because I have friends who really like Nightwing and is their favorite DC character, as well as since Batman and Robin are a very iconic duo. And sure, they can probably go with default Robin, but I think it would be a nice gesture to the hardcore fans to include Nightwing instead. Especially since Nightwing is basically Robin, but an adult. For the vehicle, I mean, come on. It has to be a Batmobile. And of course, for the track, has to be Gotham. Maybe even include the Hall of Justice, maybe. But I think out of all the picks, this one's definitely the most likely. And honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. So I think DC Comics is the most likely to come to year 2. The second franchise is kind of a weird pick, and honestly is more so just a personal want, is the Fairly OddParents. Fairly OddParents is my top 3 favorite Nickelodeon shows, up there with SpongeBob and Avatar. Timmy was the main character in the Nickelodeon Dice of Destiny game, and back in the 2000s era, it was the second most popular Nickelodeon show. For the characters, I had a few ideas. My main idea was Timmy for the original, and Hazel from A New Wish, and I think you could even add Chloe as either her own separate character, or as a skin for Timmy. Sure, she sucks as a character, but given how simple her design is, I figure she would be like an easy model swap. Or you can have both Hazel and Chloe as alts for Timmy, and have the second character be someone like the Crimson Chin or Jorgen von Strangle. For the vehicle, my main idea was taken from this episode of Fairly OddParents called The Odd Squad, where they referenced Magnum PI, and then in the episode, Cosmo turns into a car. And that I feel would be perfect for Crossworlds. And as a bonus, another idea I had was maybe Wanda as the helmet. And for the track, obviously has to be Fairy World. Now again, I know Fairly OddParents isn't as popular as it used to be, and I know some people will probably say why we need another Paramount franchise when we already have 3 of them. I know it's unlikely, but I still would really much like this to happen, and I really hope it does happen. And with that, Fairly OddParents is my second pick. My third pick is actually a franchise I actually gave a thumbs down to. That franchise is Dragon Ball Z. Now I'm personally not a Dragon Ball fan, but I do know how popular it is, I do have friends who want it, and I do acknowledge how likely it is, especially given all the similarities between Sonic and Dragon Ball. And will admit, it would be kind of funny to see SpongeBob, Batman, and Goku all in the same game officially. For the characters, I definitely would think it would have to be Goku and Vegeta. Maybe if they do a third character, maybe it can be Trunks. For the vehicle, I would go with the Flying Nimbus Cloud since it's very similar to the Extreme Gear. And for the track, I think the best option is definitely Snake Way. See, I can Dragon Ball a little bit, but still, even though I'm not a big fan of Dragon Ball myself, and I personally wouldn't give it a thumbs up, I have friends who want it, and I feel like DC, this definitely is going to happen. And for the fourth and final franchise, I'm going with a mix between Crash and Spyro. Like I said in the episode, while I'm not as nostalgic to Crash, I am to Spyro. But given how close these franchises are, I decided to lump them up together. For the characters, of course you'd have Crash and Spyro, but if they add more characters, I could definitely see them adding Dr. Neo Cortex, and maybe even Coco as either her own character, or as a skin for Crash. For the vehicle, I would just say probably just go with the standard kart from Crash Team Racing, and for the track, probably go with Insanity Island. And with that, we have filled out the remaining of Year 2. But if Year 2 fills out the other slots with other franchises, then my ideas can fill out Year 3, which would leave 2 more open slots left, which my friend suggested similar to what Paramount did last year with having 3 franchises. They might do the same with Warner Brothers, and the 2 most likely franchises for those being Adventure Time and Looney Tunes. And with that, we have completed another season pass. Although depending on if we get a Year 4 or 5, there are a few franchises I want to give honorable mentions to. That being Banjo-Kazooie with their car from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Team Fortress 2 with a payload turned into a car, there's My Life as a Teenage Robot, There's also Garfield and Street Fighter. And last, and probably definitely least, Wreck-It Ralph. After what happened in December of 2024, I don't think Disney would be willing to let Sega add any of their characters to the game. I just brought them up for the sake of having an Everyone Is Here reunion. And with that, we covered all the Season Pass characters I want to talk about. But we're not done with characters yet, since I also want to talk about what other free Sega characters they can add. Since last year we got 12 drops with 13 characters, I'm going to be adding the exact same amount. However, I'm just going to keep them at Sega characters. Sure, there's some characters that will probably fit better here, like Banjo-Kazooie, Garfield, Jenny, Wreck-It Ralph, and Spyro the Dragon, but that's too complicated, so I'm just going to keep it to just Sega characters. The first one I want is BD Joe from Crazy Taxi. I know, we already have Axel in the game, and he is pushed for being the main character of the game, but I just prefer BD Joe. He's always my go-to pick when I play Crazy Taxi. He's my personal favorite of the 4 drivers, and he was in both Sonic and Sega All-Stars racing games. He's my most wanted, and I still hope he gets in. Either as his own playable racer, maybe coming with either his own taxi, or the taxi-themed Extreme gear from the Sonic Riders series, or as an alt for Axel, kind of like the Pac-Man Ghost. And if they go with this option, they can also add Gina and Gus too, allowing us to play as all 4 of the original drivers. Either works, I just really want BD Joe to be playable. Next up is an interesting idea I had for a 2-character 1-drop, kind of like Tango and Whisper. Now I know it's probably going to sound weird, but please hear me out, is Mephiles and Tikal. Now I know it sounds weird because these characters had never met each other before, but I think this fits really well. Both feel like perfect opposites for each other. Mephiles being the closest thing Sonic has to a demon, and Tikal being the closest thing Sonic has to an angel. So it's like the ultimate good versus the ultimate evil. As for their vehicles, I actually have a really interesting idea, although it might not make people happy. My idea is Tikal having Chaos shapeshifted into a car, and Mephiles having Iblis shapeshifted into a car. Since these two are the missing halves of both characters, and we have already seen this before with Sage having one of the Titans as a car, so I actually think this really fits perfectly. Now I know I'm probably going to get backlash for this because I know people would rather have Chaos playable instead. Well, I mean, he is technically playable, but he's not a racer. He's not the one driving the car. But I think it would be more interesting to have him be the car that Tikal drives instead, since his body already shapeshifts, and both Tikal and Chaos have a strong bond, and this will allow you to play as both at the exact same time. And sure, I have seen multiple people say that if they were to do another 2-character with 1 drop with Tikal, it should be Chaos, and it does fit. I just think it'd be more interesting to have her alongside Mephiles instead. I also know people would ask why they're both here if they're both dead, which I have a few workarounds for. First option, we already have AI racers in the game, so what if the Dawn Pod made a more advanced AI racer model? The 2 characters he chose to make these models based off is Tikal and Mephiles. Second option, since this game evolves around dimensions, maybe the Tikal and Mephiles they bring in are from other dimensions where they're still alive. Or the third option, just don't bring it up. I mean, we don't need explanations why they're here. Heck, there's no explanation why the Werehog is here, despite none of the conditions being met. Same with Classic Sonic. So I feel I don't really need an explanation. And more legacy characters would be nice for the roster, and I think these 2 fit right in. Now I'm going to list off some more Sega characters I want, but don't have anything really to say about. Beat and Ulala, maybe with Gum and Pudding as their alts, Ryo from Shenmue and Joe Musashi, Alice Kid and Billy Hatcher, and to wrap up with some more Sonic characters, Mega Sonic, Vanilla the Rabbit, Movie Sonic, and maybe if they do another 2 characters 1 drop, maybe Metal Knuckles and Tails Doll. And with that, we now have our 12 free Sega characters. There were some other characters I really wanted to include, but I also had to keep at 12, so I just went with the 12 I wanted the most. And with that, those are all the characters I want in either the rest of year 2, or an upcoming year 3, 4, maybe even 5. Now I originally want to talk about more things they could include, like content, modes, and features. But this video is big enough for a race, so I'm probably going to save that for another video, maybe a part 2. Although while I'm here, I was working on a video called Do We Really Need More Sonic Characters? But I think I'll just scrap it and just give a small Cliff Notes version of it. I originally got the idea from this poll, which results shocked me. And it is a little ridiculous people saying we don't have enough Sonic characters, especially considering this is the best Sonic lineup we've ever gotten. And also complaining half the roster isn't Sonic characters, like saying one half is Sonic, the other half is other, instead of saying most of the roster is Sega. And it did feel ridiculous how people wanted less Sega and more Sonic because of the title. Feels kinda petty to me. Like yeah, why they add SpongeBob and Knight and Samba de Migo over Nate Morgan? But in the end, I still do want more Sonic characters, but I just feel Sega is more important. I love Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and I'm really excited for year 2, and I'm hoping for more years to come. So that's the video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, I'd appreciate a like. If you didn't, well that's what the dislike button is for. If you want to see more videos like this, you could subscribe. You don't have to, but you could. Anyways, see y'all next time. Peace.